If there's an Achilles heel for Mr. Trump, it's this book. And so, Russ, let me go to that. I mean, he believes his political power comes from the Celebrity Apprentice, as you guys pointed out in the New York Times Sunday article this weekend, and that it comes from his wealth. He is a genius, multi-billionaire. He's the only person that the Forbes 400 people say tries to boost his record. A lot of people are trying to get themselves off that list. He's trying to get himself higher up on it. And so this strikes right at the heart of him. And so, Russ, why give yourself this agita? Why, you seem like a nice guy and probably have a nice family and everything. Why would you want to be antagonized by him? Because I'm sure he's antagonizing.
Yeah, the world is full of unpleasant people, and we don't pick our subjects usually based on how fun they are. But this one is particularly unique because, as you know, he pops onto the political scene in 2016 with nothing much behind him but years as a television celebrity and this business record that he says shows he's an incredible genius, that he's a multi-billionaire, and that he's promising he can now do the same thing for the country that he had done for his businesses. But this was a very small, privately held family company. To try to do the usual vetting that we and the public would do of a candidate for president was very difficult because those records are not there. Even compared to, say, Mitt Romney, you could look back at the funds he'd been involved with and tell something about that. And most people running for office are government officials who have a long public track record.
Mitt divulged his tax returns, though,
he
right?
did.
I mean,
the first thing. And Trump went out of his way to hide all that. Right. So that to like investigative reporters is just like a magnet. Come to me, right? And everything that we found out just sort of upended another element of his myth of who he was. And when we get to the end of it, we've done sort of 3 large stories over a 5-year period. But there was so much more to tell in just connecting all that and trying to figure out where it was that he became the person that he was, what it was that American culture sort of enabled him to tell these lies about what he was doing and still be credible. There were changes in the media ecosystem in those years that were a big role. And so it just felt like, as a long narrative exploring sort of an American century in the Trump family, it really had weight and helped us get to understand where we had gotten to.
So, I mean, the title of your book is awesome. I mean, I love the alliteration and I applaud you guys for the title. But the title I was thinking of when I closed your book was Unchecked Bully. And throughout his life, he's an unchecked bully, and this book is providing the checks on a lot of things that have gone on. And I want to go right to the adolescent Trump. You guys have new interviews. You've went to his former classmates and friends, as well as some details about his high school years at New York Military Academy. The lore is that his father found him recalcitrant and found him to be very difficult, so he sent him to Military Academy for grooming. But he was... Excuse me, I'll say that again. He sent him to Military Academy for grooming, but he was unruly at the academy and was shirking some of his duties, yet continued to rise in the ranks. So tell us what you learned in these new interviews about this young man, Donald Trump.
Russ, do you want to start that one?
I mean, sure. It's an interesting thing. There's a split between, as you would see throughout his life, between sort of the way he portrayed himself and then the realities of the situation. So he gets there, and it's a military hierarchy, but it's not really a military operation. Of course, these are young kids, and their main thing is wearing uniforms, marching, playing sports, making their beds in a certain way, cleaning the bathrooms. And there's this hierarchy of authority that develops. There's some adults that set the overall temperature of the place, but then most of that enforcement of those things falls to senior cadets, to high school kids who are managing the people below them. And Donald Trump right away seems to recognize that he wants to be in those upper ranks of people, and he tries to do that, but he has a problem. He doesn't actually manage the people that he's associated with. In fact, one of his captains beats up a young cadet, and they decide he's just been too inattentive to managing the sort of power structure there. So they move him off. A lot of the cadets there thought he would be pushed out of leadership altogether, but they put him in a supply role. And he was sort of at that level, but not really part of the overall kind of hierarchy of authority. And then this like weird thing happens as they're taking the pictures for the yearbook in his senior year. He wants that authority still. He's still craving it, or that sort of the honor of that. He wants the credibility of having done really well there. So he has this friend, Michael Skadron, who has all these medals from various things he's accomplished during his years there. And Donald asks to borrow his dress uniform so he can sit in the yearbook photo with all of those medals. And that sort of gets to the split between what he wanted to be, how he presented himself, and then the reality of the situation.
But it also speaks to his general mendacity, right? So he's able to, when you play golf with him, it's known as the Donald Trump foot wedge, where the foot comes out and kicks the ball everywhere. And I buddies of mine play golf with him, and he races up, he takes their ball off the fairway, throws it in the rough, kicks his ball 50, 60 yards down the fairway. And so he's been doing that his whole life. That's why I say he's an unchecked bully. He's unchecked. He's allowed to do this. There's something about the American culture that is allowing for this.